How's it going, everyone? It's Adam here from the Cruise Company, and today we have something really cool and quite special. We've got a brand new Prado 250. These things have been out for about 2 weeks, I think. So it's pretty cool that we already have this whole bar designed for this car. As always, we're going to go over absolutely everything to do with this bar, all the construction, the design, the looks, the clearance, just everything to do with it. This bar turned out way cooler than what we ever thought it was going to be. Because honestly, when we pulled the plastic bumper off and saw the chassis, we were like, what are we gonna do with that? It is all over the shop. It'll be on your screen right now, and you can see it's not a standard chassis, which actually proved a little bit difficult to design a rear bar for this that was gonna look good and actually be strong. Now, you may have noticed I've got a fancy new shirt, and that's because it's a fancy new car, so we're just new all round. Firstly, before we dive into this bar, if you don't know who we are, the Cruise Company, we build 100% Australian made products. We are one of the leading rear bar manufacturers in the world, because we believe that we make some of the strongest and the best looking rear bars for your Toyota or Nissan or Ineos or Defender. We make heaps of rear bars. In saying that, we do have front bars coming. So if you like what you see, depending on when you're watching this, make sure you check out our socials, and it could be released already. Firstly, which is the most obvious thing, let's talk about the design of this bar. I think this bar just makes this car, to be honest with you. When I first saw it, I was like, I like the front, back looks a little bit funky. This completely fixes that. And as I said, it's way better than what we ever thought it was going to be, because the chassis is so low on these things. So we've seen a few other bars out there and they're really chunky and bulky. The car looks really overweight and it just looks a bit wrong. We've used some of our design tricks from all of the other rear bars that we've made to make this bar look as slim and as low profile as possible on this car. So really there's two reasons why you might see a lot of other bars out there that look really big. One is what I've covered, the low chassis, but two is the boot actually comes out like that. And as you can see from this shot, it does start in close to the car and it comes out. This then creates the issue that your jerry can and your spare tire and any accessories that you have on the back have to sit further back, because obviously the boot is in the way. That also means that your carrier stub could be pushed out, and that makes for a really chunky base. With our carriers, they're super snug. Not against it, but very close, but still with enough clearance that you're not gonna hit anything. And they follow the shape of the door, which is what allows us to make this slimline bar. There's nothing worse than just seeing a giant chin on the back of your car. It also makes it not very functional for departure angles. So this is the best departure angle you're going to get with a rear bar without touching the chassis. One thing that we're lucky about with the new 250 is that Toyota did give us an incorporated tow bar into the chassis, but the problem is they put it below the chassis and it's not exactly visually appealing. This whole contraption is welded onto the bottom of the chassis, so the chassis comes up like this. I don't think they could have made it more ugly if they tried. So our bar sits insanely close to it here, but with enough clearance, but it kind of makes this ugly mess disappear. When you see this in person, you really don't notice this whole tow bar situation. So this bar just integrates this tow bar really seamlessly. And if you may have noticed, we have a little trailer plug here. This is a bracket that will come with the rear bar, so you will have a spot to put your trailer plug. This trailer plug does come in our optional extra of the whole wiring loom kit. Essentially what that is it is a complete plug and play kit for your rear bar, so it just saves a lot of time and it saves a lot of soldering. You don't have to buy it, but if you want a seamless integration, then there you go. All right, on to an angle that a lot of manufacturers are going to be scared to show you. The direct side on angle. As you can see, the clearance that you get from this bar, basically the bar doesn't impact your clearance at all with your departure angle, because right here is your chassis rail, and then obviously you've got your tow bar back here. So this return fold is really awesome. I'm really liking it on all of our new range of bars. One, it looks nice, but two, it gives more clearance, and say if you were backing up into a rock or a wall, it's gonna push the car up rather than just get stuck on it. Something else you may see here is the whole door clearance situation here. It's incredibly tight, and it's really necessary to keep your bar from having a massive chin. So if you want to run carriers, this is the closest that you're going to get to your door. Now I know what you may be thinking, surely this is a bumper card. It is not. So you just remove the factory plastic bumper, throw it in the bin, and then here you are. In that plastic bumper is a lot of sensors. So this retains all of your factory sensors. So this is all your parking sensors here. They run down the back of the bar. You may be wondering what this panel here is. That's a bit of acrylic, and basically behind that is the lane departure radar. And it's just that little light in your mirror to tell you that a car is there. So we've relocated that back to here, and it's sitting on an angle in there looking back into the right spot, so there's no issues there. We've actually got a ton of stuff to talk about from this angle. You'll be able to see this mounting plate here. This is a bit of 10 mil that goes all the way back to the chassis here, and this is all one piece. So this eyelet here is actually this piece of metal that goes back to your chassis. You'll start to see our mounting situation that we've got going on here. There's a lot more to it than that, so we will get into it, but we've utilized the 3 captive nuts that are here. There's 2 more on the front here, and there's some at the back, which we'll touch on in a second. If you didn't know, we're very big on making the strongest bars possible, because not everyone treats their cars as nice as maybe you would. And that just means if you do treat your car nice, this bar is gonna last you forever, and it is going to protect your car extremely well. And if you treat it rough, it's gonna give you the best chances of survival, because if you have owned a wagon before and you've gone forward driving, or just anything to do with off-road, this is the section that you're gonna hit all the time, no matter what. Not only that, this whole section here is 5mm steel. The whole bar is 5mm steel, and then the mounting plates are 10mm. That is a sort of design philosophy that we've followed on every single rear bar of ours. We've learned that 5mm is just superior in every single way because it's stronger, it allows us to use less material than if we were using something like 3mm. The bracing just works a hell of a lot better, and it allows you to actually make slimmer bars because we don't need all this material to mount back to the chassis and brace more because the 5mm is just that much stronger. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, Adam, if this protects the car so much, then what is going on here? Well, it's hard to see in videos and photos, but this is literally just like a 1mm little tag down to hold the rear bumper on. You can do whatever you want with this. Obviously it stands out a little bit more that it's blue. This is not a seal back to the cab. This is just a tag that drops down. You can either fold it back, you can cut it off, and paint it black, and do whatever you want to just hide it even more. We're faced with an option that we either drop the bar down, or not even drop it down, but extend the bar down to cover this little tag that actually doesn't matter. I can literally bend that with my hand. It's not doing anything, it's literally there to hold your plastic rear bumper on. So there's no point in sacrificing all of our departure angle just to protect these little tabs. As I said, you can just cut them off if you want to. You can bend them, you can paint them, whatever you want to do. It depends what you're doing with your car. If you're going rock crawling, you'll probably just cut it off. If you're just towing your caravan and everything like that, just leave them, it doesn't really matter. Because this car is blue, we'll probably just paint them black, so then you won't see it. Just bend that tag back. There we go. So, another thing to talk about is our quarter protection hoops. These are optional, so you don't have to have them if you don't want them. I do heavily recommend them though, because they keep your car off of that bank. Without these, if you were to lean this against a tree or a bank or something like that, it's potential to maybe hit your car. If you're doing any forward driving, I just recommend the quarter hoops. These are really strong, they're integrated really nicely. They enhance the whole look of the bar. I heavily recommend them, and they're cheap as to add on to, so it doesn't really matter. They are the only thing that you can't add on to these bars at a later date because they are welded in. All the carriers and everything are completely modular. We'll get into that at the end of this video. So when you're ordering your bar, if you want them, make sure you order them. So coming around to the front of the bar, back of the bar, whatever you want to call it, the wheel well of the car. This is another super important part about rear bars that I feel like I've hammered into everyone, but I'm gonna say it again. You need proper bracing if you want a rear bar that's not going to damage your car. What I mean by that is that we have this bracket that goes from here, I don't know how much you can see from there, but that goes from this mud flap mount, which is welded into the bar, and it goes back to the chassis here. So there's a bit of 5mm connecting this wing to your chassis here. So if you smack that, nothing is going to happen. You're not going to push this bar into your car. I've literally picked up my car off these, I've winched it around. There's a whole video on it. They are insanely strong and crucial to protecting your car. If your rear bar does not have that, if you smack that here, no matter what other bracing you got going on here, this is going to push into your car. And then you're actually going to damage your car instead of protecting it. Something else that we were big on with this rear bar is not limiting your tire clearance. We are behind the lip of the quarter panel here, which means we are no way the limiting factor of tire clearance. This whole space up here is open too, so if you have a big wheel, like for you Americans out there with your 37s, if you're tucking a 37 up in there, you're not going to be hitting it on the steel, because obviously tires and 5mm steel don't really mix too well. We've also got our dedicated mud flap mounts, something that people don't really think about. Basically it's all welded in here, as I said, as part of the chassis brace, and there's also a little hole here that you can chain up your mud flaps. So if you're going forward driving, you can chain up your mud flaps so that you don't reverse over them. I've been harping on about the strength of this rear bar. I've done this a fair few times, but I feel like a lot of you wouldn't have seen it. This is our carrier arm, obviously, And it is that strong that you can stand on the back here and you can bounce up and down. Nothing is gonna happen. I've done this so many times. I've pretty much jumped up and down on these carriers. How we achieve that is we don't just do mounting at the front of the bar. So you may have noticed that clamp on the chassis in some of the other shots, but there's a bit of 10 mil that runs up the chassis on the bottom all the way to the back. And then there's a clamp up there, and that stops the bar from tilting back and forth and allows you to have insanely strong carriers, an insanely strong bar. If you're hitting corrugations, doing beach driving, sand driving, smacking it down on whoops like that, once you've got fully loaded carriers, it puts a lot of pressure on it. And honestly, that is the main reason why rear bars will break. A lot of the time, the rear bar there will punch up into your quarter and ruin your quarter. Obviously not a brand new car like this, it's not really ideal. It's an extremely crucial part about mounting a rear bar that we have learned from over the years. I can guarantee a lot of people who make this bar are just gonna use the mounting spots at the back on the cross member because it's too inviting. When we first saw it, we're like, that's the spot, but it's just not enough. It's too far back. So you need that bracing further forward to stop the bar from tilting. Else you're just gonna run into issues because it might be all right for 6 months to a year, but think 5, 10 years in the future. But yeah, they are insanely strong. Another reason why that is so strong is our carrier stubs are braced back to the chassis. Pretty much, we always just strive to make the strongest, the best rear bar for your car that's just gonna last, because we see it time and time and time again. People come in with bars that have punched up into their quarters, or they've hit a bank and then the whole wing has pushed in. It's really just simple design that takes a little bit of thinking and figuring out to make a bar that is actually gonna last. Onto the carrier setup for this car. This is a standard setup that most people go with, and that is a twin jerry can, or you can also fit a 4 kilo gas bottle here and a spare tire. Our carriers are completely modular, so you can take these off, you can swap them around, run 2 spare wheels, you can run 4 jerry cans for all I care. There's heaps of accessories on our website. They bolt on, bolt off. The best way to think about our carriers are they're set up in sort of 2 parts. So you've got the arm itself, and then you've got the accessory that bolts to the arm. So you can unbolt the accessories and swap them around on the arms. You can also take the arms off and put them on. They're very simple and easy to do. They're designed to be able to be moved around. The carrier stub setup is actually pretty cool. So it's not just welded around the top here, it has a full block that goes down into the bar, and it's welded in there again with all that bracing, which is what allows me to stand on the carrier and jump on it. Then we have billet axle seals on the bottom and billet dust caps on the top. Not only do they look really cool, they're actually very simple to use. So the cap pops on and off, and you can just take this carrier on and off. They're very standard trailer bearings in here, so very easy to maintain and very easy to just take on and off. Like, they're designed to be able to be moved around. So you're gonna have no issues there. And also means if you don't quite have the funds to begin with, the stubs will come welded into the rear bar. You'll get some nice billet caps and everything to protect them. Then in the future, when you're ready for carriers, you can just simply buy them from us and bolt them straight on. It's gonna work. Another thing that people often overlook is the latch setup. This is very unique to us and something that I think is very cool. So if we just open this up, you'll notice that this piece of stainless will come with it. The reason that this is all stainless is because technically it's a wearable part. Now, when I say wearable part, I just mean the powder coat. It's not gonna break over time. It's just when you're sliding on and off the powder coat, it'll rub through it and it'll look gross in a year's time. So better off to leave them stainless and they'll look brand new all the time. But basically this bit of angled plate here, when you push it in, sits on this other bit of angled plate. And when you do it up, it actually sits on that plate, putting upward tension on the arm. So now it's kind of locked it in place. So that prevents rattles on corrugations, but also another important thing is it now puts weight back down into the bar here. Rather than just relying on your stub axle at the back with all this overhang, when it's closed and you're smashing corrugations, you're on the beach or anything like that, now when the weight goes down, it's gonna push down into the bar, which is the strong point. We have never had an issue with these latches at all when set up correctly. Sometimes simplicity is best. This is actually a very simple design, which really just creates a lot of strength in these carriers and fixes a really problematic spot of most rear bars. If you are worried that your carriers are going to open up on some corrugations, there is a spot here to put a locking pin. I don't think you need to, it's just for you paranoid people out there. All right, let's talk about the spare wheel carrier. This is completely adjustable in and out to suit different offsets. This can also be moved side to side depending on how big your wheel is. You may have noticed in some other shots when it's closed, it is quite close to the jerry can. this is adjusted all the way in. So it can't go any further in, but it can go further out. So if you have a big wheel, you can push these further out and you'll have heaps of clearance. You may have noticed that they've got gas struts on them. That's standard. So if you're auto carriers, it comes with gas struts. There's also some adjustable bump stops at the back. So if you want your carrier to open to there, you can, or you can have it open all the way like what we have it set up to right now. That's pretty much everything. One thing I haven't touched on is the satin black powder coat that is on this. We do all of our powder coating in-house. This whole bar is made in-house. We're super proud of our powder coating. It is definitely one of the best. We use the best powder coat and we put a lot of effort into making sure that it was all done properly. We built our own oven. So it gets grit blasted first and then it gets zinc primed and then it gets the black powder coat. And of course at the base of all that is Australian steel, some of the best steel you can get. Satin black is our standard color for all our bar work, but if you did want some color coded bar work, you can do that. Just speak to the team. There is a fair few colors out there that you can do in powder coat. There's also some colors that you can't, so you have to get it painted. A lot of the standard Toyota colors you can do in powder coat and it looks amazing. I know these Prados are sort of coming out in all sorts of weird and wacky colors, so I'm not sure if we have them all yet, but if we can get it, we will. If not, it'll be paint, which is over the powder coat. So there's a powder coat base and then the paint goes on top. You want the powder coat to make it last as long as possible. Paint is very hard and is prone to chipping. That's pretty much it, I guess. There is a lot to this rear bar. This is probably quite a long video, but now you know absolutely everything to do with this rear bar. We're super proud of it. It looks awesome. I'm very keen to see this car once it gets some lift and everything like that. This is stock suspension, if you didn't know. So it's actually flexing quite good. As I said, this car has only been released in Australia here for about 2 weeks. So that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching. If you want to get one for yourself, you can look at it on the website, check out all the photos. You can either order on the website or give the team a call. And yeah, thank you all for watching and I'll see you in the next one.